On Monday, September 26th at 23:14 UTC, in front of a global audience, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, successfully hit the tiny 160-meter asteroid Dimorphos. Numerous telescopes around the world and in space, including the South African Astronomical Observatory, all had their instruments turned toward the collision. Joining us today is Amanda Sickafoose, a senior scientist at the Planetary Science Institute, who was conducting the observations at the SAAO. Thank you for joining us today, Amanda.
It's really nice to be here, Beth.
So yesterday was a bit wild. Tell us about it. What was it like from your end?
A lot more exciting than I expected. That sounds awful. And we were talking about this before we started. I've had very little sleep. It's been a really exciting night and a long trip back. I actually drove back from Sutherland to Cape Town today. I had kind of geared myself up for, it might get a little brighter. You know, we might not see very much because you never know what's going to happen. And it was just phenomenal. I mean, you were watching the images come in. You saw as the Draco camera was taking those. We had the live stream of the Draco camera on one screen. So we were watching Dimorphos get closer and closer and closer and just gasping out loud at what we were seeing. And on our screen, we were watching the images from the telescope coming in. And that 30-ish second delay between when Draco went dead and when we started seeing something on our screen, that time of light travel. And it got a little brighter and it got a little brighter and we're all staring at it. What's it doing? And suddenly, right, we see these kind of the plume coming off the front and there's all this structure and it's just unbelievable. I mean, it was, I've never seen anything like it. It was
it was amazing. And I was astounded just from the images I saw from Draco as we were getting closer and closer to that surface. And you know, where we stopped basically interviewing people. We were just watching it come in and commenting on the different boulders we were seeing and all the features and like, oh, is that a crater? You know, and it was amazing. And then I saw just this morning that SAAO posted their image, you know, a first GIF of what they saw. Atlas did this last night, and it's amazing how similar those two images are. So you know, this really happened.
Oh yeah. In real time, we saw this big thing come off and kind of push forward and move out almost like, you know, like pushing up against the sound barrier or something like I never expected anything like it.
No, it was incredible. And to see all of the images coming in real time, close to real time, and then to see all of the things that have been coming out later, Lycia Cube has been releasing their images, and it's all the same thing. It's we hit it and we caused a cloud of debris, and everybody agrees that that's what happened. And that's, you know, honestly beyond best case scenario, because I think when we were polling people during the live yesterday, there was a lot of, oh, you know, maybe a couple magnitude brighter, you know, and I think that was several more than a couple.
It was at least a couple. I can say that much. I mean, I know. So when we were leading up to the observations, of course, we were talking about this last night when we spoke with you. Trying to plan the observations was difficult because we had to kind of budget for anything from we're not going to see much and we need to be able to detect kind of a subtle change to we're going to have this huge multiple magnitude spike. And we decided, because we knew that there were other telescopes on our site and they had different observing cadences and different filters. So we specifically decided to go higher speed. So in the end, we took 1 second exposures for an entire hour, and they had about a half a second readout time on average. So we had a pretty decent observing cadence. And that turned out to be absolutely perfect. You know, we didn't saturate even with the big brightness change. We had accounted for something like a 5 magnitude brightness change that would saturate. So we didn't hit that, but there was definitely a significant brightening, and we were very, very happy that in the end we had multiple data points while the brightness went up and up and up, and then of course, you know, following the decline afterward.
And being able to see that debris cloud, the actual ejecta, was phenomenal. So congrats on managing to catch that as well. The images are just amazing. I mean, we'll have links to them in our show notes, obviously, but you know, I'm on very little sleep as you are, because yesterday was DART from beginning to end, but it was just an amazing day. And I'm still, as the images continue to come in, it's pretty amazing. I think I've said that like 7 times here.
What else
Are
can
there
you say?
any, I know. The word awesome doesn't get used properly often enough. And I think this is one of those cases where that is truly just awesome.
It is awesome.
So are
Yeah.
there any follow-up observations that the SAAO is doing?
So we are continuing. In fact, after we stopped, we did high speed cadence for about an hour. And, after that, things had settled down, and, that the original dust plume that we saw kind of had faded into the background at those exposure times. So we continued taking light curve data in 3 filters, just cycling through G prime, R prime, GR and I actually, GR and I primes, at kind of a longer cadence, 20 seconds. And we're going to do the same thing tonight for the entire time it's visible. So as long as we have good weather, we should get, a 6 or 7 hour stretch of, we had been leading up to this just taking data in 1 filter with the idea of helping with determining the light curve orbital periods from the light curves. And in this case, we're opting to go with filter cycling because we're thinking that might help tell us a little bit more about the dust. If there is dust, we could see kind of different color trends. And we're going to have a long time from now to be working out the orbital period. That's the big question everyone wants to know. And it'll take a while, I think, to figure it out. But for now, I think we'll do, 3 color imaging, just cycling through those as long as we can.
It's really exciting. What's the plan going forward? So that's tonight. And then is there anything else happening for you with this?
We are not necessarily signed up to do anything, but as you know, this is a huge effort. So there's, the DART team has been fantastic about bringing people in and organizing. And there are spreadsheets upon spreadsheets of, what happens right after, what happens at the first lunation, what happens at the next lunation. And so they're absolutely dedicated to getting lots of information, to follow this up, to nail down that period, to see how much orbital change there is. Yeah.
And what about you? What are you going to be doing once this is kind of settled down? What's on the agenda for you?
It's funny you should ask, because it's not even settling down. The reason I had to come back today is because tomorrow I fly out to Japan. I just collected my Japanese visa this afternoon. I was not sure it was going to come in. I have this giant map behind me on the wall. There is a stellar occultation by Triton happening on October 6th, and it's going over Asia. And so we're organizing telescopes in Russia and China and India and Thailand. And I'm actually flying to Japan and taking an instrument to take data there. So I get on a plane tomorrow and leave all the dark craziness behind and go into Triton stellar occultation craziness.
What are you going?
Sorry, I was just going to say, this is the best event. So Triton is, stellar occultation passing in front of a background star. This is the best event for this that's going to happen in, say, the next at least decade or more. So we're hoping to measure the atmosphere and see how it's been changing over time. And this is one of the only ways you can do it from Earth. So
that is going to be really interesting too. I look forward to the results of that. So when is that taking place for you?
That's October 6th.
October 6th.
Flying out and having a couple of days transit time, getting to the telescope, setting up the equipment, because we do carry our own cameras. We're working with, again, I mean, it's amazing. We talk about how DART, we had people from all over the world. We do these stellar occultations. We're working with dozens of people. So, professional telescopes that we've applied to, but lots of local people who have telescopes, citizen scientists. There's, Japan alone has quite a few people, South Korea. It's been great, just everyone. The borders don't matter when it comes to science. I'd like to think maybe these are examples of maybe where that works. So
no, this is, and it's really great that you guys were in a position during the DART impact to really get these images. I mean, there were telescopes from around the world that were looking at it. And there were telescopes obviously up in space looking at it. I know John Langley from PSI was also working on Hubble observations. So, we're going to be looking forward to seeing some of that as well. What about this event inspired you? We've talked about how awesome it is, but before coming into it, and all of us were sort of doing our usual skeptical, we'll see, like, I don't want to get my hopes up. Too many things can go wrong. What were you really hoping for in this?
I guess it kind of touches on what I was already saying, is that I was less, I was actually less interested in, are we going to have this big phenomenal result like we got, than seeing this team pull together and seeing, I mean, I haven't been involved with a lot of missions, but the missions are often, there's a mission team. And they're all very focused. And this particular mission seemed to do an extremely good job of trying to involve everyone around the world. And it makes perfect sense. I think one of the things coming into it is, this is one of those projects that I can talk to about, to anyone. My neighbors are asking, well, what are you doing tonight? And I say, well, we're slamming something into an asteroid. And everybody kind of perks up. And if something like that were ever really needed, we all would have to get involved. It couldn't just be one country or one space project or one something. And so I really think it's great. And it's difficult, right? Because they're different scientists have different things that they're doing and different goals in different countries. And so I think it was a really great example of trying to pull everybody together and work on something in a great way, and with a great team and with a great vibe, and not a lot of bad feelings, but everybody's just excited. We all just think this is really cool.
It was pretty evident during the live stream yesterday how excited everybody involved was. I mean, the last big event we did was landing Perseverance, and that was another incredible event but there's also a lot of waiting timed in that where it's like, okay, we know it's supposed to have done it right about now. Whereas with DART, it was sort of, it did it like a couple seconds ago. We're good.
Yep.
And that was particularly awe-inspiring. What do you think is the best takeaway from this event so far? I mean, there's a lot that's going to be coming out of this, but what's the biggest takeaway from it at the moment?
Wow. Well, I mean, we did it. We proved we could do it. Right? I mean, that's huge. There's a lot of technology. I can't even talk. There's a lot of technology advancements going on, right? If you read the DART literature, and just proving that we could even do this, and proving that we could get all of these people coordinated to be observing in the days and months and years leading up to it, and then going on forward. That's huge. The thing that blew my mind and that I didn't realize until a couple of weeks back was that nobody had seen Dimorphos before.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
And it was not until an hour before the event, when the spacecraft is showing, here's Didymos and here's this little moon, that that's Dimorphos. We knew it existed because of the light curves. So we inferred that the moon was there. We sent a $330 million mission to a moon that no one had ever seen. And then we crashed into it.
I mean, it's so dead on target. It was astounding. It's like you're just watching these images coming in, and the ground is literally approaching you. And it's like, this is the first time we've seen this poor little moon. We've just crashed something into it. We didn't really have like good pictures of Didymos to begin with. Everything was sort of radar images and infrared and not a lot of detail. And all of a sudden, as we're approaching, we're like, boulders, look, oh, it's definitely a rubble pile. Oh, this is, and it was just, it is kind of amazing when you think about everything that had to go into that. And of course the spacecraft was acting at this point autonomously. Like the whole thing was, okay, we're on approach. We see Didymos. Now we're just waiting for Dimorphos to come into view. Now we have to track it, lock onto it, and aim for it. And it all worked.
I know. and we as scientists are sitting there a couple hours beforehand, and we're turning to each other going, so how do they know that they're pointing at Dimorphos and not Didymos, right? How does that work? Who does that? And then we're watching interviews on the NASA live feed of, the people at APL who have programmed this stuff. And we're going, this is amazing. The people doing this stuff, it's absolutely amazing. Yeah.
It really is. And even, and from a science communication standpoint, the excitement around it and the fact that this was another one of those events where you could see, even just on social media, how globally it was affecting people, the viewers that we had from around the world, the trending on all of the social media, and just it's inspiring for us to say, hey, look, we did a really amazing thing, and you all get to watch it as it happens, essentially. And so I think that for me is kind of like one of the big takeaways is thank you to NASA and JHUAPL for making this public, for putting this out there and saying, no, you guys can watch the images come in. We've set it up so that this is a public outreach thing as well as a scientific experiment. And it makes you a little hopeful. It's definitely a little bit more optimistic than watching Don't Look Up.
I never finished it. I couldn't finish it.
I did simply because we were right. I wrote a review on it for the show, and I didn't like the pessimistic look, and it hit close to home. And I know it's really supposed to be an allegory for climate change, but here we are. We're actually working on trying to move an asteroid. So I think that it's still appropriate to look at it and say, no, look, we can do this, and yeah, that took a lot of planning, but the first time is always the hardest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it was super interesting too. We're reading people's comments coming in on Twitter, coming in on YouTube, as these things are, and it's so interesting to see, the range of people who follow space science, who have some idea what's going on, people who don't know anything. And, obviously a lot of people being worried about, is this going to impact the Earth? Can we knock something off course? And I don't know, it's a good opportunity to educate people about what we're actually doing and what we know and what we don't know. And, this thing of, we are not part of APL. We're collaborators. We're part of the science team for the mission, but we're all the way over here in South Africa. We're completely disconnected from them in terms of just running our telescope and taking data. And so, these ideas of, well, we didn't really land on the moon, or we didn't really do this, they say this is impacting, and immediately we see this big clunk come off of the asteroid. There's no way that, anyone can try and claim that this is not real when we're watching it all over the world real time. It's
right.
Great.
Yeah. And I think that was another thing for me last night was, how can you, I'm sure someone will try, but how can you deny that this happened when so many cameras, so many telescopes were turned on it, including, down to the level of amateur astronomers who were working in various observing networks, pulling in the same data and getting the same results. I mean, even in real time yesterday, we had people observing in Reunion Island who when we were looking at the image going, is that a debris cloud? We're all leaning in towards our screens like, no, that's a debris cloud. And then we really think, are we imagining that? And then, for Atlas to come out and for SAAO to come out and say and go, yeah, look, debris cloud was just amazing, that from the level of, massive telescope to, amateur astronomer, this was seen, the results of it were seen, the brightness change, the debris cloud coming off of it. You could actually see this with your own eyes. And broadcasting it all around the world. It was an amazing event. And I will continue to use the word amazing all day, partially because I have had no sleep and I am tired. I have no vocabulary left. I'm sure you understand.
Up a little, fantastic, extraordinary.
I know it's time to get out the thesaurus.
One other thing I was going to say, something I haven't done before with observations like this, the DART team had a Slack channel, and it's a big team. And so again, almost in real time, because we're taking data and I'm furiously, downloading it and modifying it and, making light curves and whatever. People are posting, little GIFs we had posted the GIF of the plume, and, so did Alan Fitzsimmons from Atlas. And so real scientists on the team were all commenting back and forth in real time. And boy, was that fun. And people I haven't talked to in years. And I'm like, oh, I know that. Oh, right. He's saying hi and she's saying this. And wow.
I definitely was excited that my colleague Frank had captured all of those screenshots. So I actually generated our own little GIF to post, because we had these images and I'm like, here's a quick 8-image GIF for everybody to really see it, like coming in and filling the field of view until it's just, that's all you see is rock.
Yeah. Phenomenal.
And just that series of images that we got from Draco, those are going to be analyzed for months and years to come as people count rocks and boulders and figure out exactly what was there.
Absolutely. And even something basic, like you were saying, we've used radar to get shapes. when you look at all the graphics, Didymos is kind of this top shape, right?
Mhm.
But yet when we were flying in, it certainly didn't look like that.
It didn't. It didn't. I mean, and the top shape is what we expect, right? We've seen that with Ryugu and Bennu. So that's, Rebel Pile Asteroid, that's not surprising. That would make sense. But we've also seen on like Itakama, you can get the peanut shape
right.
kind of thing going. So it was kind of a toss up. Like, what are we going to get out of this? So I'm looking forward to all of the imaging that's going to happen. And of course, we have the follow up of Hera coming up in a couple of years. So how involved do you think you're going to be in the research going forward? Or is this pretty much, we've taken our images and I've got to go run off on like 7 other projects now?
Yeah, I mean, we're basically ground-based observing support here. So I'm happy to be involved. We're not funded to be working on DART, but we have a small active asteroid group here. So we actually, well, I was the one planetary scientist, and I've brought Nick Erasmus came on a few years back. I actually pulled him out of laser physics. That was a win for planetary. But we were working with John Tonry to get the Atlas telescope here, so that's now up and running. So, but there aren't a lot of people here who do planetary science. That's pretty much it. So Nick works at the SAAO, and I obviously work for PSI remotely. So if there are supporting things we can ever do, I feel like our niche is, we have this great site. We were talking last night about how unbelievably dark it was last night. It's there, they have laws in place to protect from sky light pollution. So we have a great site. We have easy access to moderate sized telescopes, meter class telescopes. So if there are ways we can help, we're always happy. And we do have that tie kind of to the asteroid community because of some of the research we do. But no, I mean, I'm just ecstatic to kind of be one of these people going, well, I can add a little bit to the puzzle and then I can hand it off to the experts and they can do their thing.
One of the things that you talked about yesterday a bit was the fact that you guys were on site and able to sort of make on the fly decisions about what you were observing. Did that have an effect on what you were doing last night? Did you end up changing anything, or did you basically sort of stick with the plan that you had going in because it was working?
Yeah, we actually ended up sticking with the plan, and we had talked about it a lot. We worked through kind of all the scenarios and did the calculations. But it was funny, like you say that, and we have worked hard here to get the telescopes remotely operable. And that's really helped us because then COVID hit, and then, it was, nobody could go to the observatory. And so now most people do observe remotely. Like where I'm standing right now at my home in Cape Town is where I take my data for Sutherland, which is 4.5 hours drive away. And we talked about this, but Nick and I both agreed, well, we should go up because this is a big event. And I also, we had time for the entire week. So we thought we would spend the week up there. And last night, we were getting ready for bed and Nick was saying to me, this has been really nice. I'm happy we came up here. I'm happy we did this together on site. So technically it probably would have gone exactly the same, but I mean, I do stellar occultations too. So these time sensitive events, all it takes is one thing to go wrong,
Right.
And we could have gone up to the telescope within 2 minutes and, actually dealt with the hardware or plugged into the computer or whatever. We do have power outages these days in South Africa, the load shedding, they call it. It's essentially rolling blackouts. And so things like that could cause trouble. But I mean, last night it would have gone smoothly. Everything was fine. But we just thought it's this important. We should be here. And for us, it was a phenomenal experience. The sky last night was stunning. Totally quiet, totally calm. And every time you'd step outside, the first time Nick came in, he said, I can't even see my hand in front of my face. It was so dark out there. So overall, for us, it was an amazing experience. And we got great data. So all around a win.
All right. Well, Amanda, thank you so much for coming and talking to me after our very long day yesterday and very sleepless night last night. I'm looking forward. I think we have shared the SAAO images out that came out already on social media. So for those of you who are listening or watching, you can go check out at CosmoQuest X, and you can see what they've shared between Atlas and SAAO and Lycia Cube. It's all amazing, phenomenal, astounding, exciting. Go take a look. And if you were watching any of the live streams yesterday, thank you so much for your participation. And we hope as scientists, as science communicators, we all hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did, because we definitely enjoyed it. So thank you once again, Amanda, and have a wonderful rest of the time. Good luck on the occultation and get some sleep.
Thank you, Beth. You too. Cheers.
Bye.